it's the 80th anniversary of the United Nations, and this General Assembly has or is looking quite different. We've been talking about President Donald Trump's speech, but he's finally spoken. It is about an hour-long speech about just about everything under the sun, anything and everything that he's dealt with. So let's break it down for us here in the newsroom. We have our colleagues from the newsroom, Pranay Upadhyay, Rudrashish Kanjilal, Rishika Aradhya and Mahashweta Lala. Let's begin with the first aspect. He enters the building, and the first thing that happens to him when he starts his speech, Maha, is his prompter breaks down.
Yeah. And then he says, well, I can speak without a teleprompter, and then he goes on.
And then he goes on. So let's first listen into what he says, and we'll come back to Maha.
It's too bad that I had to do these things instead of the United Nations doing them. And sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen, but she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much. And by the way, it's working now. It just went on. Thank you. I think I should just do it the other way. It's easier. Thank you very much. I didn't think of it at the time because I was too busy working to save millions of lives. That is the...
So there you have it. He said it about the dilapidated building, teleprompter not working, escalator not working, but a very fit wife.
Yes, and he said he's fit himself. But he says at the same time that, had he been given a contract when he was in a real estate business, if you were given the contract, they would have had marbles now, which he says the UN does not have even. And this is quite surprising. And the UN, I wonder what the UN guys would be actually thinking at that point. They must be like, okay, what do we say next?
And it went on and on. It didn't stop, and it just went on and on.
Definitely, like people like you and I who have reported from the UN building, we have seen that building, that floor, that
it's
access.
not that bad.
It's not that bad. It's a functional building. It's a functional building, and also if you have seen the geography of that area, I know that you have reported from there. Just bang opposite to the UN building, there is a shiny, swanky Trump Tower. So that was his revenge with the United Nations building, that he didn't get the contract. But look, I think this is like Darde Trump. He has his heart that Trump that he thinks that if I would have given this contract, I would have given you the marble floor, mahogany walls, and look what kind of building. Because his first experience today was bad because he mentioned that I got the bad escalator, and First Lady would have fallen.
Yes.
And after that, the bad teleprompter. Definitely not the kind of reception Trump would have been expecting. Like,
That's
Trump,
true.
a real estate guy who always live a very, a swanky life, you can say. Very shiny things. He has a fascination for those things. So definitely,
but it's very unfortunate that the teleprompter had to stop working when Trump was speaking. Lula da Silva had a long speech he gave, and nothing happened. And when I was looking, I said, suddenly, why is he looking at the paper?
It's like President Lula and President Donald Trump.
Yeah. And then you're like, why is he looking at the paper? Why is he not looking at his prompter? And he said, lo and behold. So Rudra and Rishika very keenly watch everything that's happening in this newsroom. Rishika, what was your first reaction to the insults that were being hurled? She's actually done an entire show on the UN, Trump insulting UN. So this really fed into your entire show, the stagecraft that we're going to put out this evening.
So, like when Trump considering that he had like a very bad start to the UNGA thing. His teleprompter did not work, the escalator stopped working, and that could be felt throughout the entire speech because he's taking out his frustration on everyone and
How many times did he mention about that escalator? I think
Very few times, till the
Yeah.
end, till the very end. Oh, well, the
Yeah,
prompter
at
is
least
still
three
not
times.
working.
Yeah. Wow.
In the end also he said that
So he really
prompter-
felt bad.
And in fact, when the teleprompter was back, and he was like, he said, "Okay, thank you guys," and he realized that the teleprompter was back. He said, "Oh well, it's back," and then he goes on and on
You know,
and
this
on,
is-
and then
this
he
is again-
stretches his- yeah.
This is again very unique to Trump. If it were any other leader, particularly if it were Obama, Pranay, he would not have let you allow that that he's using a prompter. Firstly, secondly, he would have very easily gone into reading the paper and then going back to the prompter when the prompter was fine. This is Trump.
But this is Trump. Yeah. He
Prompter's
is so,
not working.
so
He'll
out
say
in
prompter
open.
starts
It's like
working.
a
He'll
drama
say.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
a thing.
Okay.
Absolutely
That is
dramatic.
so Trump.
The
Absolutely
second one,
dramatic. Yeah,
you
very
know,
Trump.
the second one, Maha, and that's to do with what we've been reporting time and again, Rudra, the unending wars. He said it again, this time not at a press conference, but at the UNGA platform.
Exactly. For me, if I have to start, after listening to Trump for almost an hour, he reminded me of every Indian uncle at a family gathering. Boast about yourself a little, talk about your wife who's suffering from
yes.
these issues, and then talk about your ancestral house, how you offered to help once many decades
That's
ago.
nice. That's a nice
And
way of
then-
looking at
Trump
things.
genuinely gives major fufaji.
Oh yeah, Fufa.
Exactly.
Yeah,
He's
this is
a
the Fufa
typical
thing.
Indian fufaji who loves to boast about
Is that our
himself.
thumb,
everything.
Trump, the Fufa at
The global
UNGA?
Fufa. Trump being the global
I-
Fufa.
I'm sure when he sits with his grandchildren, he does the same. He must
Yeah.
be talking
I'm
about
sure.
his unending
Of
wars
course.
and and in fact he also spoke about winning the Nobel Peace Prize.
Exactly, the Indian Fufas who always say, I resolved this quarrel, I resolved that conflict between them, I've been
And
the...
that moment as well, like, हमसे तो किसी ने पूछा ही नहीं.
Exactly.
So he said that, after ending so many wars, I didn't even get a phone call from the United Nations.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What all I get is a bad escalator and a bad
That's
teleprompter.
right.
Yeah,
And
So that was his-
no thanks to UN. It was
Huh.
almost like saying no thanks to UN. I did all of this all
Yes.
by myself.
And yes,
and
and he
yet
also
no.
blamed the UN, saying that the UN did not do anything about this.
That's true.
I mean,
But
the
you know,
UN has not
Exactly.
even, about the war, and he said, I did it absolutely everything. I've never asked anything in return. Only that I wanted was an end to the war.
But Maha, again, that's what we were analyzing, and Rishik and I were talking earlier. That it is not just about the fact that we are being a little humorous about the very important speech that was made. But it's not just about the humor or the jokes that we're talking about. Last time around when he went, there were so many people who made fun behind his back, in front of him. This time, nobody's laughing, which is
Yes.
exactly what we are saying.
Yes.
Now, when he says Russian oil and you need to stop, nobody, Rishika, is laughing.
That sort of ties up to the fact that, we explain it in the show also, we explain it at very large length, is that, back in 2018 when he did the speech, people were laughing at him for his nationalism when he said America is the greatest country in the world, and the entire UNGA erupts in laughter. He said the exact same thing, that America is the hottest country right now. No one is laughing simply because they don't want to be next on Trump's list. They don't want the
Not
tariffs.
only that, Rishika, but I think world has changed post-COVID as well. If you see the failure of United Nations as an institution, if President Donald Trump says that this organization has failed, this is not a joke. Because this organization, many people in the world feels that this organization is not being able to deliver to its potential, what is it expected to do.
Exactly.
Be it ending the war, be it making a solution to the global problem. Somewhere, everyone feels that ideally the UN should be delivering on those counts.
Yeah.
And he has a condescending attitude towards United Nations as an organization, but that is a frustration as well. And US feels that frustration because US is the biggest donor for that organization. US is hosting that organization, and still if they see that organization is failing, then I think US president has some credence to vent out his frustration about that organization.
Well, that's true. But also, he has been reiterating things that are really disturbing, Maha. We've been talking about it forever. and that's the climate change problem. But he's again talked about it almost like it's a hoax, and he's dissed it completely.
I agree with Rishika that there must be a fear among other countries, like as you know, they can be the next on the list. At the same time, I think when he talks about the sanctions, when he talks about the EU and then the Russian war and everything, all the countries are now want to see what actually is the next step that the president is going to take. Because more or less, everything depends on him. You know how the Afghan war ended? It was the US when it rallied out. That was when all the countries went out. So it's the same thing, you know, so probably the countries are watching, the European countries want to know what is next on the plate, what is the US offering to do, what is Gaza getting, what will Israel be doing, when, and at the same time, if you see the way things have happened, I mean, when all these countries are coming forward for a Palestinian statehood, he has absolutely said, no, there should not be a statehood right now. There should be a thing called the Hamas thing that should be cleared. Israel should be cleared of the Hamas.
Despite so many countries coming out
Yeah.
and supporting Palestine, America is holding its ground. But before that, Pranay, let's listen into what he said about China and India funding the war, and we'll take your perspective on that.
Sure.
China and India are the primary funders of the ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil. But inexcusably, even NATO countries have not cut off much Russian energy and Russian energy products, which, as you know, I found out about 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't happy. Think of it. They're funding the war against themselves. Who the hell ever heard of that one? In the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal to end the war, then the United States is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs, which would stop the bloodshed, I believe, very quickly. But for those tariffs to be effective, European nations, all of you are gathered here right now, would have to join us in adopting the exact same measures.
So I think he reiterated, because we know he has put highest tariff on India. He has been saying that India and Russia's oil purchase is actually funding the Russian war machine. And this is his opinion, this is his Trump administration's opinion, and we are facing the brunt of it. Though India has its own argument, because we consider United States as a continuing institution. We have kept the US, you yourself interviewed the previous US ambassador, who admitted that India actually helped United States and in fact the global community to stabilize the oil prices by buying the Russian oil. So this is not a one-off thing, or India suddenly started doing this thing. We kept the international community in confidence. And but if you see here, he didn't even single out Russia or China and India. He also pointed out the Europe, and off record, we also got to know that on the US side, it was by the Indian statement. Many people in the United States also got to know that it's actually Europe is buying such a huge volume of oil and gas from Russia. And he pointed it out from the podium of the United Nations by saying that you Europeans are buying large amount quantity of the Russian oil and gas, and now you are fighting with Russia. So this is kind of a double standard. He has called out European attitude on that.
But Rudra, you've been tracking America and all the statements very, very closely. Mixed signals. One day you think, okay, there's going to be a time where you'll see forward movement between India and US, and the next day or the very same evening, you're like, okay, this is going up in flames.
No, what I fail to understand is Trump keeps on bringing this. Why is India buying oil from Russia? India is funding the Russian war machine. But I don't know, isn't he aware that it was US, the Biden administration, who asked India to buy Russian oil to keep the global oil?
Of course he's aware. He doesn't care about what the previous administrations did, Rudra.
You've been buying oil from Russia, and you can't just stop buying oil from Russia. Or
Not just that. Look at him. He's engaging Putin. He's engaging Xi Jinping. It's just we should not be doing it.
Yeah.
Countries like Spain, Italy, they are buying LNG from Russia. This is
forget about that. They are buying the Russian petroleum products.
Exactly.
So definitely there is a 20% increase in the bilateral trade between Russia and United States. post
But
Trump.
hasn't mentioned once that it was US who asked India to buy.
And
Russian
now
oil.
please stop.
I think
You
it
can
was-
say,
and now
okay,
you can
now
stop.
please
Exactly.
stop.
Yeah.
But yes, my predecessors asked you to, but stop now. It's not a request, it's an order, almost making us look like villains. But in terms of the larger picture of what's happening with Iran,
No, I think there is a
Yes,
there's a big
please.
caveat in this thing. United States didn't ask India to buy the Russian oil, but rather they nudged because
no.
because
Prana, over here, they put a cap.
They-
Because
they-
India
no, there
was
is a
going
pa-
to,
no,
they
there is
said,
a- there is a
okay, this
price
is the
cap.
cap. And
No,
they
what
requested
happened-
India because
Yeah, but-
American City has said
because
that you
Venezuela
asked
said
India.
no.
Yeah,
Because
but-
Venezuela said no.
No, not Venezuela. We were buying from Venezuela, and United States put a ban on the
When-
Venezuelan oil, and that was the
No,
waiver.
there
The
was
waiver was
there was a
withdrawn.
bilateral conversation between US and Venezuela too. When Europe wanted
But
wanted
how did it
oil,
start? It started because the stable
requested
sources.
US to look out. They said, okay, if we can't take this, then you tell us. This is Biden
Exactly.
administration.
India needs a
They
stable
did two
source of
things.
energy supply.
So Biden went to Saudi Arabia and asked them to increase production.
They said
And
no.
Saudi Arabia said, at the same price, to keep the price stable for you, why should I increase
Yeah.
the output? It's a finite resource.
Hmm.
Then they, without having for decades not having anything to do with this Venezuelan administration, they started talks. When those talks failed, they said, okay, let's have a price cap so
Yes.
that you do not profit out of this war. Let's have a price cap.
Also,
and
India has a big
you
complaint
can import
about
from
India has a big complaint
from,
about because
Russia.
because the usual and the most stable sources of the energy have been directed to ensure the energy security of Europe.
Yeah.
And a country like India, which is a huge buyer of 55 lakh barrel per day, is the import bill of
And
of
even
India.
if you were securing
So-
your own interests, what's wrong in that?
Yeah, definitely.
It's a country interest, right?
Hmm.
He has pulled out of the JCPOA on Iran. He has taken a position on Gaza and Palestine like no other country, where every other country is talking about recognizing Palestine. And if America agrees, then there is going to be a massive forward movement on the Israel-Palestine crisis. He's not taking that call. So right now, our final leg before we let you go, because I know Maha has to go for the show, is the Iran aspect and the Palestine aspect. Iran, Rishika, how do you see what's happening and the statements that he's made? They're hard-hitting statements. It just seems like it is yet another support to Israel rather than looking at bringing absolute peace in the region.
Well, there are definitely a lot of memes on the internet saying that, oh, Trump is just, Israel is like the real powerhouse behind Trump, and
That's
there are
true.
many memes. How much is it? I'm not sure like what exactly is the degree of truth attached to it.
No,
But-
we're not talking about truth. But they're memes, so great. You're putting that out. We'll put a few memes for you to see.
And
Yeah.
but when it comes to Iran, America in general has always taken a very pro-Israel stance. Whether it comes to recently they, in order to like pressurize India and Russia, they put the sanctions back on Chabahar.
Yes.
And
What a huge blow to
Yes.
India.
Yeah.
What a huge blow to India.
And to also add that too, like India has always reiterated its stand that India this is not an era war. So I think you have to accept that. Our Indian Prime Minister has also spoken to the Ukrainian President, to the Russian President, and in both the situations he has said the same thing, that this is not an era war. So you just cannot, it's very it gives a very bad feeling also that every time we are being blamed for something which we have not even done.
Yeah, that's true. But my final responses from you, all of you, starting from Rudro, your take on the Trump 1 hour speech at the UNGA. What was your assessment and how do you rate it? 1 on 10. 1 hour, from 1 to 10.
Well, for me, you can love Trump, you can hate Trump, but you can't ignore that person because he's the president of the oldest democratic country in the world, the leader of the free world, and he tries to do what he promises. But of course, he hasn't finished the Russia-Ukraine war. But then, again, Trump, you can't mess with Trump, and people are afraid of him.
Isn't that interesting? You just can't mess with him
You can't
because
mess
he's
with him.
still
You
the
don't want to be on
president.
his hit
It's
list.
not him,
Yeah.
it's the seat. He's the
Yes.
president of the United States of America, Rishika.
I feel like the camera person were having a lot of fun during
That's true.
during the
And also Antonio
speech.
Guterres
Yes.
look while Trump was speaking.
Yes.
Because
Throughout
every time
Ah.
Trump would call out someone, they would pan out to that.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my
That-
favorite was the Chinese delegation's reaction because they were seething.
Huh.
They were not happy.
Really? But there was no walkout.
Huh.
There was no
Yeah.
There were no walkouts
Yeah.
as
What
of
about-
now. As of now, we do not have a report
Okay,
of
we
it.
have- we don't
I
have
think he's the most powerful man in the world, and we actually cannot mess with
Okay,
him.
her visa is guaranteed.
But you know what? Because that reminds me of a video from yesterday when Macron had to walk 30.
That's
Yeah.
such
That was
a
the-
that's
That's
such a
I mean, he
video.
had to act a French president. He had to actually wait for the motorcade to move past. Then he could go, as he was not allowed.
But
And he had
Maha,
called up
that's
Trump.
I have seen personally, like
Yeah.
I have seen Macron walking on the streets of the New York, and this is how
Most of
this
the
is what
world
he
leaders.
does.
If you're in New York,
During the
yeah,
UNGA,
I mean,
he does that.
he will have a
Yeah.
motorcade, but a
Yeah.
lot of leaders start like walking.
They
the
go to
streets of New
cafeteria,
York.
like
Okay.
It's
I have
quite-
personally
no,
met
but this
Macron.
also he was in the street. He could have
Yeah.
just been in his motorcade.
Yeah.
He was in the street thinking he'll just walk across, but he got stuck because of
Yeah.
Trump's motorcade. That's
But then he called up Trump.
good that you mentioned that.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
think yes. I mean, said and done, everything true that Rudrashi sir said that said and done. At this point, at this juncture, nobody can take him lightly. Whatever he says, you have to read between the lines. You have to be like, I think every moment, every world leader just like prays every morning that he should be
I shouldn't be
happy.
the target.
Yeah, I shouldn't be the target. He should be happy with us. And I
Isn't that
think
sad?
yeah, so
He's
But
not
like-
afraid to name and shame anyone.
Oh,
Be it
yes.
Any
Yes.
president, any leader.
Or even if his prompter goes off.
Exactly.
And those who go contrary to his opinion, he's very free to call them fake news.
yes.
Yeah.
So, but the funniest part was his explanation about the shape of Earth and how
How did we miss that?
how carbon footprint or so-called the carbon dioxide
How China is
pollution
polluting
from
America
China
because they're
is coming
throwing-
to Europe. And the cleaner air of Europe or United States is getting polluted, and also how Asians are dumping garbage in the seas, and those seas are bringing to the US shore. So this is his explanation, and he said he called entire carbon footprint thing is a con job. This climate change is a fake thing. It is not happening. And on the serious note, he also mentioned one thing, which is his very serious observation, Geeta, that entire world is facing this mass migration.
Yes.
So this global migration, immigration and that migration thing, he has its own opinion, but that is a challenge every country is facing right now.
Yes.
And he has its own opinion about how he is defending the US territory. He has also called other countries to Europe that how countries are getting ruined because of this mass migration. So, on serious note, he might be having his own way to put out things, but these are the global problems which he has listed out. These are the challenges the world is facing.
Yes, and also the fact that this migration also happens at a time when these happen also when there is war. Syria, Libya, all
Yes.
these countries, they have gone through so much. Where do you expect these guys to go? The all these displaced people.
Mentioning
The next is
Syria,
Gaza.
President Al-Shara is in the
Yes.
Yes.
is at the United Nations,
So
which
all
is
the Gaza, where do we see all these people go to? Obviously they would migrate. Where do you actually put them then? So if you have no wars, fine.
There will be pressure, because of
Yes.
the global conflicts. There will be pressure on other
Yes.
countries.
okay.
Now-
So I see an assessment, and we have do you want to add something?
I think being the president of the United States is a big responsibility, because he's just not the president of the United States. He's also the most powerful man.
Leader.
It is up to him now to decide how he leads the entire world, because what he says will actually define everybody's policies. All the national policies, all the countries' policies will depend on his one say. So it's up to him to how he wants to take that step really. And,
Also, I would like to add, Maha,
Yeah.
here that not only responsibility of him that there will be consequences of its decisions. But also people want predictability of policy.
Yes,
because
exactly.
predictability, because it's the same United States, its president, which actually started this entire thing of climate change. We had people like Al Gore, and then Obama, and then US commitment towards the Paris Accord, and then Trump came to power, he withdrew from that Paris Accord. Joe Biden came, he again committed United States to the
Yes,
Paris Accord,
yes.
and then
There
Trump
should
again.
be a
So
continuity, a
exactly.
certainty.
Even
about
this globalization, the idea of globalization, the global order of World Trade Organization, it is all US led, US defined global system.
Right.
Now if Trump want to redefine and reset the global world order, there will be a chaos.
But he has.
Yeah.
Whether if you like it or not, he's done it. It was a 1 hour long speech. There could be memes about it. He can be called the global Fufaji. He could be somebody who people and world leaders today are scared of, and ensure that they wake up on the right when they wake up, they're in the right books of Donald Trump, or he could be changing the global order. Whatever the analysis or assessment is, the fact of the matter is that he's walking the talk on his own poll promises. And that shows. He's blasé about what he wants to do. That shows. He's brazen about how he's going to take the world order, or change the world order. And he's doing it in a way that has discomforted many a country. But then it's also time to question whether a country or a group of countries together should be deciding for the entire world as to how we should be, how we should live, and what our global order should look like. This certainly looks like a reflection of a changed world order, and the United States of America still is at the top of that ladder. So let's wait and see how things pan out. It is going to be a few interesting UNGA days. Stay tuned to India Today Global, where we are bringing you all the latest updates on what world leaders are saying at the United Nations General Assembly session in New York. Thank you for watching India Today Global.